Testing, testing.
everyone, please. I'll call the meeting for the Environmental Commission. It's 11 o'clock. The Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justine will be here,
Okay,
I think. Last I heard, about an hour ago.
you've taken roll, I guess.
Okay, Kim, Randy, Barb, Gretchen, Hope, and Rusty. Absent is Charlotte, Mr. Yeager, and we don't know about Angela, Justine, Chris, and Mr. Vaughn.
Okay, approval of the minutes of April 23rd. You did send them out, right? I think I got them somewhere.
Here.
Did everybody get the minutes?
Yes.
Anybody have any additions or corrections?
No?
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
I second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I talked to Mike Voll about coming to the meeting. He said he would be here, but he's not here. Maybe he'll walk back and forth, who knows, but he was here. He's supposed to be here. And I asked Rusty from Public Works, I asked Eric, but
Yeah, he was busy.
he assigned you to this task. And Rusty is the assistant supervisor out at Public Works.
Assistant superintendent.
Superintendent, okay. And I guess, anybody on the floor that wants to ask about invasive species to Rusty, how tough it is for these guys and where we want them to go after stuff, okay? Anybody else want to just chime in? Rusty's a good guy.
I was looking at this list that we have here of trees that with the ivy. I just glanced at it, I just got here, I'm sorry that I'm not a little bit more informed, but I'm just wondering how the progress of this list is going on. Trees at, where am I? Washington Street.
Well, Washington Street are private property, so there's
Right.
really nothing that we can do.
Not even, what about the street trees, the sycamores that are right on the berm?
I think even them fall under the homeowner,
Really?
partially.
The trees between the sidewalk and the street, the homeowner is responsible for lighting.
I know they're responsible for part of the sidewalk, so it might be a 50-50 thing like the sidewalks are. But I can't give you an honest answer on that, but I know for sure.
So do I.
The city used to come around periodically and strip the ivy off the trees.
Well, if you've noticed, that many of them have been stripped recently. I live on Washington also, and a lot of them have been. This is my block that we're talking about, and they have not. And I know the ones you're talking about. So I assumed the city had done all that work of stripping the trees, and I'm just wondering if they're going to continue to do that, or if we need to,
I guess the question is, I know Public Works has a very full plate of
Yes.
doing many things, and their crew that deals with garden, landscape-related things is very limited in what they can do. Is dealing with things like this more on a, as it comes up, or is there any kind of proactive plan that the city does?
What would be as it comes up, proactive, we can't spray anything, we're not allowed to spray in the city, so we can't.
Well, mechanical
Treat it or
removal.
Anything like that. So it's, as it comes up, we try to take care of it the best we can.
I know that, I'll just give an example for everybody, is that I reached out to Public Works for helping with some of the things on the Nature Center property, and that's because I asked.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't, you know, this isn't a criticism of Public Works in any way, because they have, their plate is very full. If it's something that we want the city to be addressing, it probably does have to go to city council and the city manager so that they fund this. And it may mean looking for grants to tackle this, because it is a big problem. We know we have ivy as a huge problem in the city in many, many places.
Yeah, Ivy alone, we'd probably have to have a two-man crew full-time just on that.
just on the ivy.
Yeah.
And it also might be that you have to come up with like a 5-year plan type of thing on how we're really going to be addressing this. So I'm not speaking for you, but I'm guessing that it's kind of, you really don't have a plan in place to deal
No,
with this.
you know, take it as it goes.
Yeah,
And your property is a priority, basically, the city owns it. So it is city property.
correct.
So
Right.
that's why we have no problem jumping in there and taking care of you.
Yeah, and we were also addressing the issue that we were trying to be good neighbors because some of the ivy was on the Coast Guard fence.
Yeah, and it was expensive years.
Right. And we know we still have more on our property, as Randall pointed out. There's other trees. The 3 trees, I think you're talking about further deeper into the property, the big willow oaks, not willow oaks, corkscrew willows. We did recently treat them and cut them. Our New Jersey Audubon Stewardship Department went in and kind of cut out. So again, it's a process. It's going to take time to get them out of those big trees, but
Gretchen, is there a time of the year that's best to get this stuff out, or is there?
I don't think there's ever a wrong time to go
Okay.
in with ivy and to like do the encircling, the cutting. It takes sometimes, it can take a while for it to die. And then sometimes you do have to spot treat with chemicals.
Me too.
You know, we tried to limit that.
I mean, because,
But-
you know, in the summertime, these guys are absolutely
Oh,
taxed
no.
as far
Right.
as what they do. So I would say very little is going to happen in the summer.
Fall is generally a better time anyway, because even though ivy doesn't actually die back, they're a little bit weakened as the weather cools. So if you cut them back in the fall, it's a little bit easier to control. And if you do have to use chemicals on them, it's better because they're sort of retreating.
Having said that, Rusty, is there some way that maybe you guys can plan, that you could sketch out times in the fall for this kinds of stuff? I mean, ahead of time?
See, our slow time, we're busy all the way up until January and February.
Okay.
There are, I want to say slow months, but anymore they haven't been because we've been taking on so much extra work. But they've normally been our times where we go and, you know, build a lot of other things, outside things.
Well, that would really, actually, wouldn't that really be a good time then to tackle something like ivy? Because they really are dormant, as dormant as ivy can get. So that would be easier to handle and maybe even easier to pull off trees.
Yeah, I talked to Eric about setting a couple weeks aside. around
Certainly,
that time.
we could spot the stuff growth in the summer and the fall. We could see exactly what we want to go after, and
Yeah.
then maybe take pictures of it and then give it to them or whatever,
That would be great.
so you know exactly where we're going to have to go after in the winter, in the early winter months.
What is the protocol? Like, how does your team remove it? Because I feel like we
The only
should,
thing we really do is we cut a section out all the way around the tree, about 2 foot, and let the top die and just keep working at the bottom.
okay. So we need to inform the public on what to do with their ivy then too, the homeowners.
Right. Rusty, before the meeting, you said that you might be able to send a letter to the homeowners on Washington Street, including the one near the tennis court?
Yeah, I'd have to talk to Aaron,
Right.
the clerk,
But could, in the letter, could you explain or include a picture of
how to do it.
how to do it?
I don't see why not.
Because most of them have landscapers, and all they need to do is direct them.
Yeah. Well, if they have the landscaper should know how to take care of it.
Well, if they don't,
mean-
if
I don't know.
Some
So-
one owner
still
I
think
spoke
that
to,
ivy is gorgeous.
when I spoke to the landscaper, he said he was never told to do that.
You know what bothers me about all this is you can go and buy ivy.
Yes, you can buy it in the gardens. It's all over the garden centers right
Like,
now.
We're
Right.
just like beating our head against the
I felt like going in and yelling, get rid of the ivy and the creeping Jenny.
yeah, creeping Jenny is all over too.
Well, I can talk to my neighbors in the 1100
Whose
block.
responsibility are the street trees directly in front of someone's home? Is it
They
the
asked me
city?
that earlier. I'm not sure if it's a 50-50 thing, like the sidewalk, or if it's strictly the homeowners, or if it is the city, strictly the city. That information I'd have to find out. I don't know offhand.
What about a dead tree on a street? that's between the sidewalk and the street, again?
Normally, we got to go through shade tree.
That's shade tree.
Once they give us some permission, we can go cut it down, or the homeowner, depending on where it is.
I think if you check your, like in my house, I mean, my property line it doesn't quite include where my sidewalk is, but yet I am responsible for my sidewalk.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right, so even though it's technically off my property, you still are responsible for it. I assume it's the same deal as far as the tree goes.
Yeah, I was always under the impression there's a 6-foot right-of-way in front of your
Yeah,
house.
there's a utility easement that the city has the right to do whatever they need to do
Yeah.
to control the street. But I'm not sure who has the, I trimmed my tree. I mean, maybe I shouldn't have, but I did, because I just figured that no one else was going to do it,
Yeah.
The city, or I don't know whose the city is with this, somebody is contracted to trim for example, the big sycamores on Washington. They come by generally in the fall and prune and trim and, cut away from where the cables are, the wires, power lines. And I just thought that was always a city thing. And then when we did need one of our sycamores taken down, it was done through, who did it? I think it was done, though, through the Shade Tree Commission and then a city contractor.
Yeah, I know that information, the shade tree would have all that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
So are there any, on this list, is any of these things that are not on they're not on private property for sure?
What about the tree that's in front of the water,
The water tower?
yeah, no, the Public Works office. There's also where you come in to the recycling center.
Yes.
That's a spectacularly covered tree. I see it's not on this list, and Randall probably didn't
That's
get
in
over there.
Lower Township. That's why it was-
Really?
Yeah.
Even though it's
Yeah,
on
right
the,
outside our gates is Lower Township.
oh, it's inside the gate, this one.
Oh, inside?
Yeah.
By the recycling yard?
No, it's in front of the building.
I don't know any of them in front of the building.
Well, I'll check, make sure it's on the other side of
Yeah,
it.
we only got 2 trees out front.
I'll look again.
What is the working relationship between code enforcement and public works from the perspective of the implementation of this ordinance?
We can get in touch with them anytime we need to. We have a good relationship with
Okay.
all the different offices.
So there's no need for us as a commission to play any role in
I don't
making
believe
sure
so.
there's communication?
Unless you have any special requests, I don't see any reason you have to.
Would it be best for us to contact code enforcement or to contact Public Works? If we
If it's a
see,
code issue, you should contact them.
okay. And only if it's a city property, should we contact you directly?
City properties would be us, yes.
Okay, got it.
I mean, you can call code enforcement on me, but I don't think they'll yell.
So you're thinking that if it's a private property, then you think we should go to code enforcement instead of Public Works?
That's why I was asking. And then in situations where code enforcement notifies the property owner of the violation, but the homeowner or property owner doesn't do anything to remove the invasive, then would we contact Public Works and they would get involved for the removal or remediation? Or is that something where code enforcement and Public Works would communicate and we wouldn't need to be involved?
Most likely what would happen is code enforcement will give them a certain amount of time and then come back and inspect again. If it isn't done, it would be a violation, most likely a fine
It's $100 per day
per day.
that it goes unresolved, yeah.
I live in Cayman. Yeah, then, I think that's how, and they would have somebody come in and cut it down for them and then charge them for the,
And would that be Public Works that comes in and cuts it down?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I don't think we're allowed to do any work on private property. even stuff
Okay.
like that.
got it.
I think that's why you were talking about having a company that cuts.
If I were a property owner and I got a letter from the building inspector saying about my tree, I would be upset. All right, somehow I would think that they ought to be able to be told personally before anything happens about their trees. All right,
They are to be notified.
by who, though?
By the
Yeah,
city.
that's the question.
But no, I don't know if the city, by who from the city
Oh,
would
by
tell them?
the street tree, you mean?
Code enforcement would be the one that would go out. And they would say, hey, listen, you got ivy on the tree, you got.
Which one, the
10,
tree you were
20
the
days.
tree they were talking about, Rusty said wasn't on our property, wasn't on the city property. Which one were we talking about?
Are you talking about a street tree or a tree on your property?
Well,
The one next to the tennis court is on the property. It's not on, close to the street.
all right, so now it's on, that
But it's
tree is
city
on.
property.
That tree is on.
No, it's not.
that
It's
tree-
No, the
private
tennis court isn't city, is it?
Public property. Okay.
But it's on a home, somebody's yard in front of
Yes.
the tennis court.
Let's take a generic property. It's on somebody's private property, period, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And what's the flow of what we want to have done here?
Where's the
Code enforcement should be contacting
First,
the
before the
property
property
owner
owner?
first.
Before
yeah,
the property owner.
With a written notice of the violation.
Okay.
That was as explicitly stated in the ordinance.
All right, so now we would, if we wanted to, from an environmental commission, we would suggest that we would say, all right, we would tell the public work, not building inspector's office, that there's an issue on this particular property. Would they send a notice to the property owner? Is that that's what you're thinking is going to happen? Okay.
So code enforcement is going to let the homeowner know.
I think we really need the city manager here to be
Mike.
talking about how, I mean, you want me to go up there and see if he's there?
Yeah. Hello, are you there?
Because we can sit here and say how we think it should work, but how is it really going to work?
Right.
How is the city
That's the
going
question.
to follow up on any of these procedures?
So according to the ordinance, though, is it a violation to have a tree with ivy growing up and on your property?
No.
No.
Okay.
Only if it is beyond your property lines
If it
and
encroaches on the neighbor's
infiltrating
property.
the neighbors, and the neighbors have filed an official complaint.
Gotcha, okay.
Then,
That starts the,
Legal to have
That
it, and we
starts
wouldn't be able to send code enforcement out anyway.
yeah, only if it is reaching beyond the bounds of one's property.
A failure to control the spread of invasive species beyond the boundaries of a resident's property is a violation of code.
Right.
gotcha, okay.
No person, contractor, or property owner can legally plant an invasive species listed here.
Gotcha.
Are the landscapers privy to this?
I think we agreed that we would inform them that they would get a copy of the ordinance or of this brochure. Wasn't it also agreed that everybody, that basically residents will be getting something like this? I mean, everybody's going to be informed that now this is the law before code enforcement comes and knocks on your door and says whatever it is they say. Wasn't that part? That will be distributed to landscapers and everyone.
Do we have some more of these?
That isn't the last.
That's the draft, that's the old one.
But yes, and I actually, maybe now's the right time to update everyone. I did receive the quote from Inkwell, finally, and it, for 7,500, which was the initial figure, which seems way too
Well, I
much.
think we reduced
We
that half.
axed it to half, but it's only $1,200 to have it done on recycled matte paper.
For 3,500?
No, for 7,500. So we should definitely go that route instead of Staples. And if we did that, we could even send them to all properties. The city could send them to all properties in the mail with the water bill. And we would still have a lot left over for years to come, which might be the way to go. I don't know, just a thought.
And we should make an effort to send them to landscaping companies
Absolutely.
that operate in the city. I don't know if, do they have to have a mercantile license to operate in the city, or I don't know.
I believe it's a commercial property.
So, anyway, we should do some research on the landscape companies.
Yeah.
So then, Rusty, unless you hear from the, I guess, code enforcement, you don't really know or do anything.
No, unless one of us, we're driving around and we see something,
Right.
like Madison Avenue, there was a lot of ivy there on the side of the driveway we took care of.
Okay. So is it okay with you if we just keep adding to this? I mean, it's a city property list? to bring it to your attention at least, and then
That
if
would
you
be
have
great.
time,
Yep.
great, and if you can't get to it, we'll go to Plan B.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
Does this overwhelm you?
Okay, just so we know.
No, and I could understand that it would be, and I really do think that we have to push for the city
Absolutely.
to be looking for funding to help address this issue.
This is, right, this is probably an outside contractor, like you said earlier, that needs to come in and do this.
Someone else had suggested that to me, why, when I was
Yeah.
talking to some friends, he says, well, why don't they just hire a few outside people or contract for a few extra people just to do Ivy? Or
Take it under control. And
get it
then
under control, right?
go
I
from there.
wonder, I mean, I'm just brainstorming here. I know that the Clean Communities program in the state, which will pick up trash, and they dealt with some large-scale marine debris. They took a boat off of the beach in front of Fisherman's Memorial and in the meadows behind where I live, the meadows at Cape Island. They use prisoners to come in, and they do these jobs. And I have no idea if they get involved in invasive species removal. It's mainly trash.
I don't think they use prisoners at all anymore. I think there was an issue with that,
Yeah,
because they used to clean up going into Wildwood.
yeah,
All along, you never see them anymore.
yeah.
But it-
Well, these are like, not, they're more like in county jail, not.
Right, that's the minimum
prisoner
security,
prisoners.
right.
They are allowed to use chainsaws and all that. I mean, I can look into it, but
Gretchen, what's the
mean-
name of the group?
it's a state-run program called the Clean Communities Program, and the city does get funding from them sometimes to do projects. I think that's where you got funding to buy the trash pickers
Yep.
and the gloves and stuff like that. It's these mini grants that communities get, but sometimes they send out their teams. And, I mean, I can investigate that if they ever do anything.
So did you get a hold of Mike?
saying that he was sick and he wasn't going to be here. I don't know. Anybody else have anything for Rusty? I think we have an idea which direction we have to go with Public Works, anyway.
Yeah, I think if you guys send us a list, we can hack at it and hack at it as best we can when we get free time. And then if we can find a way to, free up something in the budget to hire somebody to just come in and take care of it all,
And if you tell us that it's not on public property, then you'll just tell us that it's not on public property, if we're not sure.
Yeah.
Right, it needs to be.
Yeah, I'll go through and just mark it like I did this one.
Okay.
All these marks are private property,
Okay.
but the other ones aren't, so I'll check them out.
I also think it would be important to find out the street trees, like who is really responsible? Is the homeowner really
Yeah,
responsible?
we need to know
Or is the
specifically.
city responsible? Shade tree, what's all that rigmarole?
I agree.
Yeah,
All right.
to get us, a firmer answer on that.
I'm sure it's written somewhere in an ordinance, so Aaron would probably possibly know.
I don't know. It's here a long time, and I'm still not sure that,
I know.
It's unclear. It's sometimes you're expected to do something, sometimes you're in trouble for doing it.
and I guarantee you, if it's your sidewalk,
Yeah,
your insurance company, it's on you,
it's on you.
whether, even if it's not on your property.
That's right.
So, I mean, I assume it's the same thing for a tree.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. Thanks, Rusty. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want, before you leave, one more thing. Do we want to talk about Harborview Park with him
Absolutely.
here?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
So one other thing that we,
You're not leaving yet.
no, and
Sit
honestly.
down.
Sorry, I didn't get it.
Stay.
This is just a rough draft.
So,
Rusty, here's a color one you can have. That's so you can see how bad it is. No.
Oh, I know how bad that is.
At our last Environmental Commission meeting, I brought up two things, and one is the benches along the promenade, that we have some concern that people decorate them, and they leave the decorations on for a long, extended period of time. We know that's a sensitive topic, because a lot of times they're memorial decorations. And we may be bringing that to, this isn't what this one's about, we may be writing up some suggestions to send to council to think about how you address that. And it may be adopting an ordinance that, you know, you have a week and then you have to come back and clean it up. And I'm not sure how they're going to enforce that. Hopefully, all those memorial benches, there's a record of the people that paid for it.
Yes, there is.
But anyway, that's one thing. But then I brought up, kind of, I guess because Harborview Park is near and dear to my heart, spending the last 25 years on the harbor working there, and the Nature Center has held several fundraising events. We've utilized the park. We think that it's sort of this neglected part of the city. Nothing against the current Public Works. It's been like that for ever since it existed. It's been there since basically 1993, I think. So there's a couple things we want to bring to the attention of City Council and the City Manager. I put together a draft memo that I wanted the rest of the commission to be comfortable with before we send it, but here's a little preview for you. Right now, like, poison ivy is all over the place along the railing. Like, if someone were walking and standing there overlooking the harbor, they would end up rubbing against the poison ivy. There's a lot of benches that are being put along the promenade. There's kind of different styles of benches. In our opinion, or my opinion, our opinion, it's becoming like bench clutter. There's too many. And the whole point of that park is to be kind of a peaceful, serene setting. And it just doesn't make sense to just keep on adding benches because the city keeps on getting memorial bench requests. So our suggestion would be to kind of take some benches away and maybe put them in other locations, or, you know, spread them out so they're not bench next to bench next to
Mike.
bench, too many of them.
Mike, have you got a minute?
Apparently not.
The berms, the weeds in the berms just get out of hand. You know, that needs to be addressed. Also, what happens is, and I know this for a fact, some people at Jason Home, they just go plant things over there on their own, because there were tomato plants in the berm, and there was, you know, mojito mint in the berms. And, you know, so originally when this park was planned in 1993, there was an extensive landscape plan that showed native species, and it never happened. And then in 2005, 2007, the County Open Space Board had additional funding to put into the park, and there was another restoration, and that's where these 3 landscape berms came into being. And I did the designs for those berms. And again, it wasn't planted exactly the way that the plan was done. But the whole idea of this park was to be kind of a model of a seaside setting, utilizing native species, seaside tolerant species, you know, really to celebrate the beauty of our coastal environment. And that's just not what has happened in that park. And it is, you know, it's utilized. We don't utilize it anymore for our fundraiser because it's an awful lot of work to have an event there, but the DeSatnick Foundation does hold their Around the Cape award ceremony for their race. I think every now and then there might be a wedding that's held there. It's a gem of a location. It's a beauty of a park, but it's being neglected. And we just want the city council and, administration to say, we need to take care of this park better and get back to the emphasis that it was created for, is to, use it almost as a model so homeowners can go see these native plants and see how beautiful they are and see that they can use them. And if we put the right things in there, they don't have to be irrigated. They don't need to be watered because they're adapted to our rainfall. So that's it. That's what we as a commission are thinking about, all agreeing to send this memo to city council and the manager, so that maybe it means that we have to look for funding once again to really focus on this. So that's what I tried to do in my memo.
And
But-
Gretchen, it's a beautiful after-dark park with the Lobster House lights and everything, just sitting there. It's so peaceful.
Yeah. And I think it could even be tapped into more. I mean, I don't know if some of you even know this, the second design of this park included like a labyrinth, a walking labyrinth. We have held some yoga classes there one year. It's a beautiful, serene, passive recreation. We're not even saying that bathrooms have to be put in there or anything like that. We're saying it should be kept as this peaceful place, but it is kind of tucked away and hidden. You don't see it necessarily, but once you get there, I know a lot of people do love it, but it's just not being taken care of. So I don't know if anybody has any other additional comments. I emailed you this.
I have no question. I mean,
Any typos?
I have two things.
I didn't
like
see
the
any
memo,
typos.
right?
Yeah, it's great.
And secondly,
That's fine.
you can take care of the first item about the poison ivy along the deck, right?
Yep.
You
Yeah,
can-
that wouldn't be an issue.
That's not a problem, so that's one thing we can get started on.
Yeah, at the beginning of the season, we normally go down there and cut around the fence anyway.
And we will send this to the council somehow and see, get a response.
Okay.
Or send it to the manager, I guess, possibly, and then that way he could set up an item for the council to hear it. Anybody else have any questions on that?
I think it's great.
Yeah? Mike, we got a couple questions, if you mind, if you don't mind. Okay. Rusty, I guess.
Thank you.
If you can stick around, that's fine. If not,
Yeah, I'll stick around
okay.
in case,
Mike, thanks for coming. Oh, my pleasure. We had some questions, I think it was about
Well, the street tree.
the process about if we notice that a private property owner's trees now are they're in bad shape, there's invasives growing all over them. What's the path that we get for that to be handled? Do we send something first to Public Works? Do we send something to the property owner?
I think it would fall under shade tree.
Yeah, the Shade Tree Commission regulates all the trees and shrubs throughout the community.
So we need to work with them on that
Yes.
first,
Yeah.
before we take it any step further.
Yeah, talk to Jay.
But if a street tree, a tree between the sidewalk and the street, is that what you're
That's,
asking?
well, that's true. It's not technically, the tree is not on their property, but it is in front of their property. Somebody's got to take responsibility for it, okay? And I don't know how to process that,
Talk to Jay, the Shade Tree,
okay?
yeah, or Nancy in the office. They can give you direction on that.
All right, that, ultimately, how does the,
What do they want to do with a tree?
Well, I guess where the confusion is, if that tree is covered in one of the invasive species that the ordinance now says are not permissible, if we go to shade tree and shade tree goes to code, and code goes to Public Works, shouldn't we just tell Public Works?
Well, it's the first time I've heard this, so I'm not sure, but I want to try to give you the best direction. I would talk to Shade Tree, get some direction. I don't know what Public Works and we could do about that.
Even
It's
if
gotta
we
be
had
dealt
to
with.
trim one, we would have to go through shade tree anyway.
Yeah.
We have to get their permission to cut anything.
There you go.
Gotcha.
Trees are sacred in this city. And they do create a lot of issues, especially between the curb and the road, you know, with the sidewalks. So we do a 50-50 thing with the sidewalks. The homeowner pays 50%, the city pays 50% to the contractor that does the sidewalk. That's been going on for years. And you'd get the money for the environmental, for the nature center, and the membership.
Okay,
Yes, that was all taken care of.
thank you for that.
Thank you for what you do.
Questions? We got the boss here.
I'm only the manager, the boss is above.
One of them.
Well, I have another question, unrelated to invasive species, but I saw someone hosing their sidewalk recently,
Doing what?
washing their sidewalk,
Washing it?
which is not allowed
Oh, I'll be honest, I wasn't aware of that.
But
You can't wash your sidewalk.
by ordinance.
Power
Okay.
wash? You can't power wash your sidewalk?
Nope.
It's all in those water regulations that nobody knows about.
It's in the water conservation ordinance from the 90s.
Wash your car, there's all kinds of little things in there that you really can't do.
Certain days of the week, depending upon where you live, east or west of Madison, between basically mid-May to mid-September, you can or cannot water your lawn or gardens, but washing the sidewalk with a hose is never allowed unless there's a permit obtained.
Is there an ordinance number on that? Do you have an ordinance number?
Yeah, there
somewhere?
is.
Any idea what it is? So we can just tell Mike.
I don't know it off the top of my head, but
To be honest, I wasn't aware of it. I don't think anybody here at the table was aware of it either. But that's something the council could review and look at and say, this is either good or it's silly, or maybe we should change it. I mean, I can understand where you're coming from environmentally, that if they're using a detergent or something to power wash that sidewalk and the running off is going into the,
think
the
the
grass or whatever, or
concern-
create issues for the trees.
It's a water conservation issue. Whether you're using a solution or not isn't the problem. It's a water conservation issue.
Okay, well, that's a good point, yes. Yep.
but so I see that, right? Who do I
Code enforcement.
call code?
Code enforcement would handle that.
Okay.
Any and all municipal codes.
And code
Except for the ones
probably
dealing with
isn't
police.
Aware of this.
I'm sorry?
Code is probably not aware of this code.
Probably not. I wasn't either, until they look it up and they'll say, yeah, she's right. We have to go take a look at it.
Okay.
Didn't we talk about at the same time that we're going to do the invasive brochure, we were going to republish and republicize all these water conservation regulations, which nobody knows about. Didn't we talk about doing that almost jointly or at some point
Some reference to it.
really soon?
Yep, it's on my to-do list to make the advertisement for the paper, basically a PSA on this ordinance.
Right.
For residents.
Well, we just received a dune protection plan with our dunes, and now the council passed that plan. I've been really looking at, as I drive around, say, holy smokes, do we have to really trim back and cut back, but environmentally sensitive to the plan? So it's going to be a lot of work lined up to get that dune. If you've driven by there, see it, hasn't been addressed for many, many years, and his department's going to have a long-term plan on trimming, the trees that don't belong there and the other plants that don't belong there. But hopefully, at the end of the day, it'll be beautiful. Now, we have a new city engineer coming on, full-time, Paul Dietrich from Upper Township. He's an engineer. He's very familiar with dunes because if you know Upper Township in Strathmere has all those dunes, I think at 1.2 miles. I took a ride last Saturday just to check it out myself. So he's going to be quite an asset to help us get those dunes under control, because as he did or does currently until he starts here July 6th for Upper Township. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Oh, Mike, were you at the last council meeting when Jay Schatz spoke about the plantings on the dunes and how it was just a brief statement, really, at the end of the public part. some of them which are really not natives, but are still good dune holders. So that, we don't want to like get rid of everything and just take everything down just because it's not a quote-unquote native,
You're-
but does well here.
You're correct, and you're right, and I learned that too. Even the stuff that doesn't belong there, we really cut them at the base. Don't touch the roots because it helps to stabilize the dunes. So, yeah, it's a great point, and it's something I learned. I didn't realize that. I thought you just take it all out and get rid
No,
of
don't
it.
take it all
Are
out.
there any grant monies out for that?
I don't,
Any grant monies available for for maintaining
for the maintenance of dunes,
dunes?
I don't know, but of course, this is Cape May, we pursue every grant application that we could possibly get. So when Paul comes on, I'm going to ask him to pursue that.
In the dune management plan, I did not read it in full. I was just looking through the pictures and the diagrams, but I noticed were pretty extensive plans for the area where the promenade is going to be extended anyway, like all the way down towards Wilmington and Poverty. But so it's like, why use Public Works to invest their time and the city's money with the plantings if it's all going to be ripped out when the
No.
new seawall goes up?
I don't believe it. It will be. And I don't have, I mean, I've seen all the plans from the seawall, and we're going to redo the bulkheading along the road, which is deplorable along Beach, as we redo Beach Drive. But I don't know of anyone touching the dunes to extend possibly the promenade to Wilmington.
Gotcha.
Do you? I mean, I don't see it happening, but
I know there was talk about it,
but I haven't seen a final plan. I think that would be a little touchy, try to do that. You think?
So wasteful
Yeah.
as well. It just seems like we're talking about the same stretch.
Yep.
So, I mean, that area will be disrupted with all the machinery coming in and putting in the seawall and building it up, all the concrete work.
Yes, but the Army Corps and the DEP are very strict on how we approach that. So we'll see. As it comes along, we'll keep you informed. Okay?
I mean, that's probably how many years out? I mean, that's 10 years out, probably.
Mr. Vol, can I just ask you for the name of the city engineer to put in the minutes?
Paul Dietrich,
Paul Dietrich.
Okay, thank you.
Dietrich.
C,
H.
Yeah, at the end.
Rich.
okay, thank you.
You bet. Is that it?
I believe so. Anybody else have any questions? We may have some more, but we'll get them.
We'll make a list.
Again, thank you for what you do, and my office there to serve you and everyone else that lives in the city and visits the city. We want to make sure we continue to have a clean, safe community. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you for
Thanks, guys.
handling
Thanks,
the
Rusty.
payments.
You mentioned $1,200 for the brochure.
Oh, yes, we didn't get the grant.
I'm sorry,
Either.
what?
We didn't get the grant.
We did not get
So
the
now we
grant.
have to come up with we have money in.
So I emailed the director of ANJAC to inquire as to why, and she's away on vacation. So
Okay.
I haven't heard back yet. But apparently there were an oversized number of submissions this year, which doesn't surprise me. But I don't know yet why.
Frequently, you never get an answer, but it would be helpful if you did. That maybe just that. Yeah.
I think she'll get back to us, but as of now, I do
Oh,
not.
she'll get back, yeah, but they're, yeah.
But this is perhaps we should just vote on it. That was the quote from Inkwell, so
So what was the amount that you need to find?
it's right there.
It's $1,183 for 7,500 brochures. Anybody want to make a motion to, I don't have a problem with this. Anybody have a motion to approve that money, $1,183?
I move.
Is there a second?
Motion
Second.
by Hope, second by
Kim?
Kim.
Any other discussion on it? I didn't hear none. Let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Just how soon do you think we can get them?
She said quickly.
Before Ocean Fest?
Oh, that'd be nice.
Why don't we could go, or I can go knock on the door now after the meeting. Yeah.
We budgeted this item, correct? I think we budgeted some money for these brochures.
We
There was a
budgeted,
total- We were told there was a total of $6,000.
I don't know what the final budget approvals were. Should have asked him.
Well, the new CFO told me that we had $6,000, the same as last year, and we didn't use it all last
All
year.
right,
So,
so we want to get that paid. Can we give that,
Well,
submit that to the, ci-
Before paying it, let me actually get the
Okay.
official invoice,
all right.
and then.
You're right, they'll need the official invoice before they could even do
so you want me to
anything.
give this back?
Yes.
Related to that,
I don't need it, but.
we talked about, I mean, I've gone back and forth, maybe I've been overwhelmed by the list of recommended native plants for people, because the list I have has hundreds and hundreds, and I think people would be overwhelmed by that. If you go to Jersey Friendly Yards, .com or .org maybe, there's so many great resources.
Is this Growing Natives, is this the one you're talking?
Well, that's within it. When you go to, their webpage, then I believe you click on plants. And the partnership for the Delaware Bay Partnership, they have a Go Native brochure, and it's great. It's all we need. It's exactly what we need, to the point where I feel like reaching out to them and say, hey, do you mind that we share this on our website? Because it's a coastal, community. It's the outer coastal plain of New Jersey, the sandy conditions, it's all pretty much the same. And their list is what we should be providing people. We could even go so far as say, could we reprint it with our name on it? We'll
credit them.
give them credit, but then, producing something like this would be a lot. But maybe we just have a version of this that's online that people can download themselves. But, again, looking at what's out there, there's no reason to reinvent what's already been done.
So
Really good.
we just need
That
to
was a great
figure
list.
this out before I send the file to Inkwell, because the URL at the bottom of the brochure has to be updated to reflect this information.
Well, I mean, you certainly could send people to Jersey Friendly Yards. And all I can tell you is a lot of organizations are doing that. It's become
What
this
was the website? What was the website?
Jersey Friendly Yards, and it's either .org or .com, I'm not sure.
Jersey, it says
You emailed that to
Jersey, it
us.
says jerseyyards.org. Is that what you're talking?
.org, that's it.
Just
Jersey one?
jerseyyards.org.
Yeah, but they call themselves Jersey Friendly, but
I mean,
anyway.
This is a fabulous brochure.
Yeah,
isn't
but
it
that's
lovely?
within there. There's also other things for like native plants of New Jersey. It links to the Native Plant Society. There's a lot of good,
Yeah.
I mean, we may just want to go there instead of telling people to go to the city website.
Let's do both, we can do both. right?
But
Put it on the brochure, right?
Well, we can also have it as a list of sources at at our table at the Ocean Fest.
Right, so we need to place the order like this week to get these printed, so we have them by Ocean Fest. Or at least ask for a portion of the order to be expedited and then the remainder to come.
or if you just want a couple hundred done, I'll run them off at the Nature Center. We're just talking, right? It's just
Yeah.
color front and back. I mean, I can do that.
Okay.
It costs us,
But we do want to put that
a penny.
website on the brochure.
Right, so jerseyyards.org, put that on the back, and then the QR code, are we still doing that? Should that link to this?
well, I suppose that would be to the city page.
Okay.
I think you're right. The QR, whatever, it's beyond my pay grade, guys, but I mean, that's,
Which I can create a QR page, I just have to know, so I know Dan Shustak used to do that. Who in the city is doing that kind of stuff?
It's probably going to be Paul Dietrich now, because he took, I think he's taken some of the responsibilities for Lou, I believe. Even though he's an engineer, I think he's doing some of the stuff that Lou is doing. I may be wrong, and I'm on TV, but
See, that could be the problem. We don't know who really is taking care of the website for the city. So I don't think it's terrible to send them to jerseyyards.org, because take a look at it. It's really a lot of good stuff.
So jerseyyards.org is the website. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And the QR code, are we going to do it or axe it?
Is that complicated? I don't
QR code on
know.
On the back of the brochure.
Brochure.
And
That
if we
QR
do
code.
it, where should it link to?
That's what we're saying. If we link someplace, we won't have it resolved within the city for a little while.
No, so just don't do it at all.
Yes, don't do
Or
it.
link it to Jersey Yards.
Don't do it.
Don't
Yeah,
do
yeah.
You're saying just write it on the bottom of the brochure. You go to, is that what you're suggesting? Not worried about the QR code, but just,
I can give you a QR code for Jersey Friendly Yards.
Okay,
Okay.
great. So we'll have the URL and the QR code because different people like to
Right.
access sites different ways, both for Jersey Yards. And that's the problem solved.
Okay.
Done. Okay, great.
It's all moved in here already.
Okay.
Okay.
am I next? I guess Justine and I need to report on this together, this invasive species brochure, and then dune grass plantings. I have no report, but apparently it will be proceeding to, and as soon as I can find out what's happening with DEP and the trimming and the whatnot, then we can move on to the next step, but until,
Hope I sent everybody the link that I got from the city.
I sent everybody a note that said, I cannot open this, I cannot read it, it was teeny weeny, like
It's
this.
117
Well,
pages.
Could somebody print or something? I have no idea what that thing's
It's a
for.
It's
PDF.
long.
No, it's not your fault. It's,
I,
it-
I just passed that on to
I absolutely saw
It
that.
was very
and-
extensive. I read through most of it, but it was very extensive. And basic bottom line is that our bulkhead and the dunes are full of invasives and haven't been kept up on and et cetera. And I'm glad they're going to have a plan to do that.
Okay, thank you.
because
Yeah.
as soon as I got that, I requested it from Mike Vole.
Yeah.
No, it's,
and passed on to
it's
Eric.
not your fault that it was that size or whatever website it came from, or that I have what is happily known as a legacy printer or computer, and it just, I was literally this big.
I
It's,
certainly understand that I don't read anything that size either.
it was like little dots on the screen.
Well, what's interesting is that if they're going to have this plan for the dunes, that part of the city, can they add in all the city properties and, public properties to that? And when they're going out for grants, I mean, I know that's a huge project to begin with, but maybe the plan needs to be more comprehensive overall with everything else thrown in there.
I'm not sure what what he was instructed to do. He was probably just instructed to do the dune.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
City
sure.
coastal communities have to have a
Is that what-
written dune management plan.
Gotcha.
I'm not saying that that's not a bad idea to have an all open space management plan.
Right,
But
gotcha.
for
It was
what they have to
required.
do for the DEP, it specifically is a dune management plan.
Gotcha.
Does-
Okay,
would-
that's why I got that.
Does anyone know, Gretchen, maybe this is in your wheelhouse, but that plan called for the removal of some pretty mature evergreen-style trees?
Black pine?
Yeah, the
Japanese black
Japanese.
pine.
Yeah, this is what Jay was talking about.
I mean, to my mind, I was like, why would they
Why
ever
would they
do
do-
that? That's not a crazy
Right.
spreader, and it's blocking wind, it's holding a lot of sand down, it's a mature tree.
This is what Jay was talking about at City Council that I
Is
just
that
mentioned
a
to him. He
good
said,
idea?
don't take those down. They are really protecting the dunes. They're good plants, and just because the word native is in front of them, doesn't mean that they need to be taken down.
But is there something about that species specifically that is atrocious? Like, why
don't think so.
would that
I
engineer?
remember going to the convention hall for, Stockton had a presentation on that stuff, and he was very clear that even though they look structurally like they would really hold, he says they're really bad for dunes. That's what, I'm only quoting what he was saying. So it's beyond my, I'm not that expert on that stuff, but they were very clear that even though it looks like it's a good tree, that it's very solid, they say it's horrible for dunes.
Did he explain why, or do you remember, or do you understand that?
Meadows has a
And
whole
I may
bunch
not
of-
even be talking about the same plant that you're talking about, but some of that stuff that's very invasive on the dune, it should be taken out.
I just meant the more mature evergreen trees that are
Yeah.
there. I just was very shocked to see that they want to take them
Yeah.
out.
So, I mean.
It'd be worth looking further.
The ideal situation is you're going to try to replicate a natural maritime forest. So go to Cape Henlopen State Park and ride your bike through the park and see those are loblolly pines and, the natural pines. That's what should be planted. I don't know for a fact the reasons why they're Japanese black pines, they're not native. And what Merrill was going to say on Lafayette Street, right at our condominium complex, the Meadows at Cape Island, those are Japanese black pines, and they're all dying now because they're infested with a pine bark beetle, and they are going to be dying. We've been
We've
slowly taking them out.
We've lost 4 or 5 of them, and I always thought you plant a tree and it was forever, thank you very much, but Japanese black pine seems to have a shelf life of 20 years, and ours are 35. And they get injections every year from experts, and who knows? So,
If they're,
I do know that the DEP they're a real watchdog on these dune management plans. And, they have their experts saying what should be done. There are a lot of invasive species. There's butterfly bush that has started to pop up in parts of the dune, and it has been neglected for years. So hopefully they're going to do the right thing, but someone should be kind of monitoring to make sure they are doing the right thing.
sometimes I don't know how to, I'm trying to say this tactfully, the people who have these goals, who care about these things, can be a little bit rigid. So that, we want to restore, we want to make it look like a native thing, like a native dune. But over time, things grow in dunes and other places that may or may not be what belongs there or what is not natural. If the Japanese pines are getting invaded, then we don't want them on the land, and we don't want this beetle invading other plants. And so maybe that's a reason. But if they're bad for the dune, if they really are, then you have to let it go. But maybe they're okay there, and maybe I think you're right that it just bears a little bit of watching and maybe some question asking before.
But they also have to
project
be
starts.
careful. I know that there was, a couple of years ago, it was down towards the cove end where some people were pushing for pruning to improve their view,
Yeah.
basically. Yet, they wanted to prune the really good plants, like the bayberry, and naturally bayberry wants to get a little taller, and that's just kind of the evolution of the dune. So, it'd be interesting to see. They need to do some pruning, but they need to be very selective pruning. You can't just go in there and say, "Oh, I'm going to give everything a haircut,"
Right.
to improve the
Somebody's view of the
view.
ocean.
You have to think about the health of the plant. So it does kind of take knowledgeable people going in there that aren't just going to hack away and maybe end up doing more damage than good. So,
That was the end of his point, as you can imagine. And I forget what municipality it was, but it ended up that people who live there have a very nice view of the ocean and the dunes are bare. And that's really not the goal here.
Okay. Gretchen, you want to say anything about, your-
I just threw this in, it's something that I found this morning on the internet, and you're talking about beach and sand reports and all the other stuff, so I thought it was interesting enough to pass on to the discussion.
If you email that to us, it looks like these would be links. Those
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you click on it?
that you would just
State
click
of the
on.
Beach report? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's so much that has to be done.
Just a quick update on Ocean Fest. It's
Yes.
coming along. We did receive the money from both West Cape May and the City of Cape May. I did spend some money on advertising. It should be in the Gazette, the Gazette, what is it called? The Shore Guide. The Shore Guide, the Sentinel in Ocean City, and the Star and Wave, the insert, the Shore Guide. So that hopefully will get the word out. We've got just a couple more weeks to go. We have a meeting, I think, on Thursday to recap with committee members. I think we have a nice lineup of environmental organizations, as well as artists. We may even have a few more. Yeah, like, the property is gonna be full. We have music and food, and it's gonna be a nice event. So, fingers crossed that it's a nice day. We do have a rain date, the next day, but, I've got some flyers if anybody wants them. If you want me to send them, I'll send them again digitally. Just start spreading the word. The city, Civic Affairs, Recreation, they have this, they're gonna put it on the kiosk at Convention Hall, and hopefully they'll promote it too in their email blasts.
I'll get a,
Any-
I'll get a statement on the radio.
And then you actually sent me, this is kind of a cool, I think it's a cool thing. You told me that, I guess Mac had 500
The glasses.
pint beer glasses from the Crab Festival. They say Desatnik Foundation on one side and Crab and Beer Festival on the other. And they have like 500 glasses left. So I'm going Friday to pick up the glasses that have been stored outside under a tent and have centipedes and things growing all over them. So if anybody wants to pick up a case of glasses and wash them for me and bring them back, we'll be able to give away free glasses rather than using plastic.
They're very nice glasses, good, heavy, solid.
Yeah. So, anyway, we'll have some.
I'll have David bring some home for me to wash.
Yeah, we're not doing beer at this festival, but we'll probably do lemonade and iced tea or something, and you come and get a free glass if you buy a lemonade. And we could always use more volunteers, so talk to your friends, neighbors, anybody want to come out and work a shift, not only at the environmental commission tables, but just there's around the Nature Center property, there's always the need for help. So I have those flyers. I have our Catch of Cape May, which is the fundraiser for the Nature Center. I've got flyers for that. That happens the week later. Please tell your friends, everybody about that event.
Send me some copy and I'll put it on, we'll put it on the radio as well.
Okay?
And we're also figuring it out. I don't know if you saw the text chain last night about doing we're covering some of it live on the radio. As soon as after Thursday, we'll have a schedule and we'll be able to do that. I found my notes.
Oh, good. And just to update you, so Hope and I are working with Adele from the West Cape May Environmental Commission and planning to have the two tables next to each other and kind of work collaboratively at the festival. So we've met with her, and the two tables together will do an invasive species, kind of identify the plant game for guests that come, and then if they win or get enough of them correct, they can take home a little pot with some seeds of native plants at one table, and then at the other table, we'll do what we did last year that people just loved, which was making the little chemical-free pesticide spray. The kids and the adults just loved it, so we thought to do it again.
I'm passing around the little seed packets that I ordered that will be prizes. The packet that's attached was at the Garden Club plant sale. They were just handing them out. And so I went on this website, American Seed Company, and they send you these quantities cheap. So I ordered 300 packets, as you and Adele suggested.
Yeah.
And there's two different kinds because I couldn't decide which one I liked better, so.
So I was going to build 2 sandwich boards from leftover building material at my house and paint them so that we can put the games to display it. But if anyone already has something that we could use, so I don't have to get out a circular saw and a drill and build this stuff, it would be great. No?
Yes, yeah, we do.
Okay. I want to put it on the tabletop, so it can't be, 4 feet tall, but something that's like this big and won't blow over because of the breeze off the harbor.
We also have a wheel, like a roulette wheel kind of thing, that we change out. We put different birds on it, like if you want to use that for anything. We have a sandwich board.
Okay.
You need 2?
Yeah, the idea was to do 2 of them.
I'm sure we can figure out something.
Board and make the child's easel. Cut your
I'll have to call you right back, okay?
sides and duck.
Are you coming Thursday?
Yeah.
So we'll look on Thursday.
Go over it Thursday.
Okay.
So- And Kim, you said you'll be there on the 17th?
I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Anybody else have anything they want us? Anybody wants anything at the next meeting, just email Marilyn, we'll get it on the agenda if you have any ideas what you want to talk about.
I'm guessing the desal plant, because Mike's not here, we're not going to talk about that.
I have no report on the
Okay.
sale plan. The planning board report, there, we don't have any current applications. We do have an application, which is probably, maybe in a couple of weeks, I'm not exactly sure. But that's the only thing that's current that we have to worry about. Anything else for the good of the order? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Okey-dokey.
All right.
Mike's off.